Everybody, and welcome to Coffee Chatter. We have a very exciting but short show today, so I figured I would start off with some old news, the Dancing with the Stars finale. Since the finale is long since old news and everyone knows who won, I will make my recap rather quick. This has been the closest finale in many seasons, so close that only 3 points separated the top scorers from the bottom. The last night of the finale saw Bethany and Derek redoing their freestyle, as America chose theirs as the encore dance. It also featured all of this season's stars dancing except Lolo Jones, who opted to just dance in the opening scene. In the end, the following are your results, for those of you who for some reason do not know. In third place, just shy of the trophy, is Janelle and Val. In second place was Sadie and Mark, which means Alfonso and Whitney are season 19's champions. Whitney is the youngest professional to earn a mirror ball. Season 20 is already underway in the prep stages, although no rumors have surfaced as of yet as for cast members. You can tweet your suggestions on Twitter at DancingABC, but they may not listen. I have already placed my suggestions, so I would like to know, who would you like to see dancing on the show if you were in charge of the stars? Season 20 will also be the show's 10th anniversary. Season 1 premiered back in 2005. The season will kick off sometime in March. Now we're switching gears to something very mysterious. A missing family goes missing in Alaska. 5 months after the mysterious disappearance of a family in Kenai, Alaska, local police returned to the dense spruce forest near their apartment and discovered a piece of clothing in the underbrush. It's a piece of outerwear, Kenai Police Chief Gus Sandhall tells People. We're still evaluating the significance of it, so I'm not going to be any more specific than that. Last seen on May 25th, Rebecca Adams, 23, and her 2 daughters, Michelle Hundley, 6, and Jarkiah Hundley, age 3, and boyfriend Brandon Jividan, age 37, made national headlines after police found all their belongings, including their wallets and keys to their cars, in the family's kitchen. For weeks in June, they were the subject of intense but fruitless search efforts, involving local police, the FBI, scent dogs, helicopters, planes, and a dozen trained personnel and volunteers. Last week's 2-day search with 20 law enforcement officials wasn't the result of any new leads in the case, says Sandall. Because of scheduling conflicts, it just happened to be the most convenient time to get all the various groups, including the FBI and neighboring police forces, together. There could be another small search undertaken later this week in the same area before it snows, he adds. This case still remains a high priority for our department, and we're continually asking, what more can we do? With no evidence of a struggle or foul play, authorities remain stumped over the family's fate. Kenai police aren't the only ones perplexed by the disappearance. Friends and family who describe the couple as happy and excited to be building a life together have spent the past month searching for answers, in addition to blanketing the region with missing person posters. Rebecca's older sister, Lynelle Adams, is still haunted by the last conversation she had with her, telling People earlier this year, Rebecca sounded uncharacteristically upset. She said, "Just know that I love you." Lynelle recalls her sister saying before hanging up during that final call. As of 2014, the family is still missing. Movie reviews. The Haunting of Amelia. This movie is not well known, but is a very interesting movie to watch. It revolves around a young man who lost his girlfriend 10 years ago in a freak train accident. A waitress comes to work at his restaurant that looks exactly like Emily, his girlfriend. Through the whole movie, one would think that Amelia is just a close coincidence that she looks exactly like Emily. However, the last 10 minutes of the movie, we find out that Amelia is actually Emily, reincarnated to take her boyfriend back to heaven with her. He walks away from his home and his friend and follows Amelia across the railroad tracks, and is also hit by a train. She later returns for their friend Rusty, but he refuses to go. Ironically, he gets into a horrible car accident and dies anyway. The movie came out in 2008 and is sometimes referred to by its other name, The Other Side of the Tracks. Now for a TV show review, The Sisterhood. This show airs on Lifetime at 10 p.m. Eastern Time on Tuesdays and follows 5 young women as they discern a calling to religious life. It is still reality television, so it will have its share of drama and tears, but it is a breath of fresh air, in my opinion, compared to the other types of reality television we see. It is very poignant for anyone who once in their life thought of becoming a nun or even a priest. It's just the priests have to think in a different light. I know when I watched it, it brought me back to my own discernment days of senior year, when all the other kids were visiting colleges and I was visiting convents. This show is already booked for a season, but a short one, typical of reality series. But they are hoping for a season 2 pickup, and so am I. Remember, if enough people watch, I will interview one of the women on the show. Maybe even more. Reflection Corner. Our first reading today is Isaiah 11, 1 through 10. But a shoot shall sprout from the stump of Jesse, and from his roots a bud shall blossom. The Spirit of the Lord shall rest upon him, a spirit of wisdom and of understanding, a spirit of counsel and of strength, a spirit of knowledge and of fear of the Lord. And his delight shall be the fear of the Lord. Not by appearance shall he judge, nor by hearsay shall he decide, but he shall judge the poor with justice, and decide aright for the land's afflicted. He shall strike the ruthless with the rod of his mouth, and with the breath of his lips he shall slay the wicked. Justice shall be the hand around his waist, and faithfulness a belt upon his hips. Then the wolf shall be a guest of the lamb, and the leopard shall die down with the kid. The calf and the young lion shall browse together, with a little child to guide them. The cow and the bear shall be neighbors. Together their young shall rest. The lion shall eat hay like the ox. The baby shall play by the cobra's den, and the child lay his hand on the adder's lair. There shall be no harm or ruin on all of my holy mountain, for the earth shall be filled with knowledge of the Lord, as water covers the sea. Our psalm today is Psalm 72, verses 1 and 2, 7 and 8, 12 and 13, and 17. O God, give your judgment to the king, your justice to the Son of Kings, that he may govern your people with justice, your oppressed with right judgment, that abundance may flourish in his days, great bounty till the moon be no more. May he rule from sea to sea, from the river to the ends of the earth. For he rescues the poor when they cry out, the oppressed who have no one to help them. He shows pity to the needy and the poor, and saves the lives of the poor. May his name be blessed forever. As long as the sun may his name endure. May the tribes of the earth give blessings with his name. May all the nations regard him as favored. And our gospel message today comes from Luke 10, verses 21 to 24. At that very moment he rejoiced in the Holy Spirit and said, I give you praise, Father, Lord of heaven and earth, for although you have hidden these things from the wise and the learned, you have revealed them to the childlike. Yes, Father, such has been your gracious will. All things have been handed over to me by my Father. No one knows who the Son is except the Father, and who the Father is except the Son, and anyone to whom the Son wishes to reveal him. Turning to the disciples in private, he said, Blessed are the eyes that see what you see. For I say to you, many prophets and kings desired to see what you see, but did not see it, and to hear what you hear, but did not hear it. Happy Liturgical New Year! We now start our Advent season. What great readings to start with. The first reading today is a perfect reading for expectant parents. We all want our children to grow up as faithful stewards of God. In the reading discusses the child that shall sprout from the shoot of Jesse, which we know as Jesus. It lists all the things that he shall inherit, which we as followers also should inherit. The Gospel reading talks about how only those who follow Christ will fully know the Father, and then the Son. If we don't believe, we will never fully grasp or understand the full love of God. Even as believers, we don't understand and never will fully grasp it until we're there. As we go through this first week of Advent, let's focus on enhancing our prayer lives to grow closer to God and preparing our hearts for the coming of Jesus. We have two saints today. The first is Saint Bibiana. No, I am not saying Viviana. Bibiana is the patroness of victims of torture as well as sufferers of epilepsy. Saint Bibiana was born in the 4th century in Rome. Her family belonged to the local Christian community and was persecuted under Emperor Julian the Apostate. During his reign, Rome returned to former Roman practices and Christians were attacked, not only by the mob, but also by the authorities, as it was during the era of Emperor Diocletian. Bibiana and her sister Demetria managed to survive, but they lost both of their parents. Their father Flavian and mother Defrosa were both martyred. The orphan sisters were turned over by the authorities to a Roman resident named Rufina. It turned out that their fate was to be tragic as well, since Rufina was a cruel woman. For quite some time, she attempted to force the girls into prostitution to compensate her for the cost of their upbringing and to bring in extra money. When Demetria and Bibiana continually refused, Rufina flogged, starved, and emotionally abused them. Eventually, she decided to separate the sisters. After many months of torture, Bibiana was tied to a post and beaten with whips laden with lead balls until she died in 265. A priest buried her body in Rome. At the burial site, a church was built 100 years later in her name. Our next saint is a blessed, which means he's not quite a saint yet. And this is Blessed Raphael Melchior Krylinski. Raphael was a monk. He was born Melchior Krylinski around the feast of the Epiphany in 1694 to a typical noble family in the village of Wysocka, near Poznan in Poland. He owed his religious education to his mother. Since childhood, he had a vocation for priesthood. However, after 3 years of study in the Poznan Jesuit College, he joined the army and soon became an officer. But this lifestyle did not let him realize his aspirations. In 1715, he joined the Order of Brothers Minor, which is a Franciscan community, and took the name of Raphael. His monastic path started in Krakow, but due to an epidemic in the city, all the novices were transferred to Piotrkowo-Trzebański. He was ordained in December of 1717 in Poznan. As a missionary to rural people, he often traveled across the country, preaching sermons and converting others by being an example of penance and piousness. In the Saxon era, a time of widespread immorality and devaluation of principles and religiousness, his behavior provoked respect and a deep reflection on life. Constant political turmoil and intervention armies moved around the country and devastated its economy, followed by poverty and epidemics. Brother Raphael was not indifferent to those problems. For example, during the epidemic in Krakow in 1736, he served as chaplain and nursed and took care of beggars. He spent the last days of his life in the sanctuary of St. Anthony of Padua in Lagwigny, now a district of Lodz. He died on December 2nd, 1741, and was buried there. His beatification cause started in 1772 and ended joyfully on June 9th of 1991. And our closing prayer is a tribute to Saint Bibiana. Mother Mary, you watched your son sacrifice for people. Help all the women who are fighting with the fate of adversity in life today. Help them start their own families and enjoy family happiness. Grant that none of them is ever lonely or unhappy. Amen. This week's Fan of the Week is Karen Manaski. The answer was Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Music lovers will be happy to know that next week's question will feature music. I will see you next week.